Hi, everybody. It's Alida Hernandez, Spanglish Entertainment here again, bringing you some incredible artists and stories, which I love. And this is kind of close to my heart because our artist here, Ashley, she's from LA. I lived in LA for 13 years. So by reading all of looking at the videos and reading everything, I've been crying. Okay. So it touches me tremendously. So let's begin. Let's talk about you, Ashley, first before the LA stuff. So tell me a little bit about yourself. How long you been in LA and everything?
Yeah. So I have been in LA going on 17 years, which is wild to think about. I originally grew up in Nebraska and I went to college in Denver for 5 years before moving to Los Angeles. And I love LA. It's just such an
Mhm.
amazing, eclectic, creative city, and I felt very much drawn here. I'm a songwriter, I'm a speaker, I'm a performer. I've really had a very varied past, done a
Mhm.
lot of things, kind of Jane of all trades. And music has always been a through line for me. And it's kind of funny because I started writing songs when I was about 15 years old. I was hearing lyrics in my head, and I taught myself to play guitar so that I could put music to them. And then I went off to college. I studied psychology and philosophy. I was interested in like cognitive neuroscience and communication and biology, and sort of studied all of these
Mhm.
more straightforward topics and never really thought about music being a career. And then when I graduated from college, I moved out to LA to pursue acting and got outed at a party for writing songs to some music industry people. And then things just sort of started to unfold from there. And so, cut to now, I've got several albums, several EPs. I've released a number of singles. I've had song placements on ABC Family. I've had songs played in Abercrombie and Fitch stores. And I've done quite a few other things as well in terms of production and then getting into coaching and mental health advocacy just due to my own recovery journey. So, that's sort of a nutshell.
Wow, wow. So you're just a big package here. No, that's awesome that you've done that so much and you've pursued so many things, your passion. So your passion for helping people with mental health, which I think is incredible.
Thank
I
you.
do a podcast on Tuesdays on wellness. So I'm
Mm,
always looking for I interview people there and different experts to help people, help them in a more natural way,
I love
right?
that.
So I try to help people with that way. Right now I have a doctor I'm going to interview. He's going to be talking about the brain, some science stuff, with dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, which is so hard. Um, but this song that you just came out with it about a week ago, right? Under the Bridge, which was originally Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
Correct.
So how did you get to remake that song?
Well, the Red Hot Chili Peppers have been a band that's been near and dear to my heart since I was probably 4 years old. I used
Mm.
to watch MTV when I was supposed to be watching Nickelodeon, and I would see the music videos that they were putting out at that time. I believe "Soul to Squeeze" and "Under the Bridge." And I was too little to really understand bands or music or artistry or anything about being a fan and following a musical act.
Mm.
But I was very compelled by just the visuals and the music and the sound. And just, I remember every time those videos would come on, I was just glued to it.
Right.
And then when I got to be about 15 years old, I sort of had forgotten, like, I wasn't keeping track of who those people were. And when I got to be about 15, they released their Californication album. And
Mm.
I was playing on the skateboard in our driveway, and my older brother was working on his car, and he was listening to them, and Scar Tissue came on. I was like, who is this? And at that point, I was old enough to understand. And so I started
Right.
following and consuming all their music. And I just felt like their lyrics were always sort of the soundtrack to my life. Like they were
Mm.
always relevant to experiences I was going through. I found them very hopeful, very uplifting. I loved
Right.
Anthony's sort of unique vocal style. His
Right.
rapping and the way he sings is, self-taught for the most part and unique to him. And so I would sing along to that and very much enjoyed practicing that. And then I had a whole sort of story around um, as a teenager, I just had a really hard time. I was not having a good relationship with my parents. I felt very alienated at school. I was a straight A student. I was like president of clubs. I was a cheerleader. I was doing 5 dance classes a week.
Mm,
And yet I didn't feel like I could trust anyone or had any like close
mm,
relationships. I was kind of a lone wolf. And so I wrote this poem of gratitude to the Red Hot Chili Peppers fan club when I was like 19, my first year of college. And Anthony Kiedis's dad, a man named Blackie Dammit, was running the fan club at the time. And he singled me out and started
wow.
having this pen pal relationship with me, mentoring me, teaching me about Aldous Huxley, and just all these, Hollywood history. And for me, it was incredibly validating because feeling so alienated and rejected, it made me feel like I could reach through the television and connect with people that I resonated with. And not only that, they actually reached back. So it made me
Mm,
feel like I belonged.
wow.
So that was deeply meaningful and personal to me. I ended up going to a few concerts, one in Denver, Detroit, Chicago. And it was just a really incredibly validating experience. And then I still went on to have a really tough time in my 20s, and my trauma kind of got the better of me, and I went into substance abuse.
Mm,
But I honestly credit surviving that to the fact that I knew Anthony Kiedis had struggled with heroin. And
mm,
because I knew of his story, I never touched it. I actually never even came across it. Um, but I did abuse cocaine extensively. And also because of knowing his recovery journey, I eventually found my way into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I felt courageous enough to do that because I knew that he had done it. And just the power of, one person in recovery setting an example and helping other people who are struggling to know that recovery is possible.
yeah.
So that was definitely true to me. And then I guess cut to, I had a producer that I did a project with in 2017 named Gary Miller. He passed away a couple of years ago. And on the project that we did together, he was encouraging me to do cover songs because, they can gain exposure and all of that. And so we did a cover of Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones.
Mm,
And I like the Rolling Stones, but that song never particularly spoke to me. I just sort of did it because
mm.
Gary said to. After he passed
Yeah.
away, I thought about who would I want to cover, what would be really meaningful to me, and I landed on the Chili Peppers. And so then I did these 3 songs: Under the Bridge, Soul to Squeeze, and a mashup of Wet Sand with Bright Lights by the band Cannons. And it really was an incredible experience, and I could go on, but I'll pause.
Yeah. No, that's so amazing. That's so amazing. Your story and everything, and say how much music is so important. That's what I was just. It was in my mind because I've gone through similar things that you've mentioned, and when it comes to drugs and things like that, I lived in LA in '87. So let
Mm,
me tell you, I got stories.
I bet.
There's tons of stories being living from '87 to 2000. I lived there, and I used to visit all the rock and roll clubs. The Troubadour, the Whiskey, the Go Go. I actually met
Mhm.
my first husband at the Rainbow.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I've got a history
yeah.
with that place too.
Yeah, yeah. So the scene and everything like that, and Hollywood can be crazy, but it's a beautiful place. I tell people, LA, the mountains, I loved it. It's just so beautiful up there, and what just happened, it's unspeakable. It's just unspeakable. When I see Altadena wiped out, like what are you talking about?
Oh, I
Pacific
know.
Palisades wiped out, like what? I can't. I've been trying to reach some friends. I was nervous because my girlfriend lives up in the valley, and finally got a hold of her, thank God. But how did you do with the fires? Were you close to it, or?
Well, it's somewhat not close enough that our neighborhood was truly at risk, but we had a lot of smoke that blew into our neighborhood. So we actually did leave for a week. I've got 3 young kids. I've got 3 boys. One is 6, the other is 3, and then I've got a baby who's 4 months old.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
thank you. They're
Mhm.
wonderful. So we woke up like 3 in the morning. I want to say it was like that Wednesday morning, and I could smell the smoke in our house. And I got up and I checked all the fire alerts again, and it seemed okay. So I went back to bed, and by 6 a.m. the smoke was really strong,
Mm,
and we didn't want to all be breathing that. And the evacuation zone was on the other side of Glendale, which is the next
okay.
neighborhood over from us,
Right.
and it would have had to have jumped like 2 freeways in the LA River to get to Silver Lake, but um, I just didn't want to be in a situation. You saw probably on the news in the Palisades that people were jumping from their cars on the PCH and running toward the beach. And so I just thought, let's get out now. I don't want to get stuck in traffic if we do get told to go.
Yeah, because the traffic there is horrendous. So you were
Yeah.
in Silver Lake. So
Mhm.
I worked in Glendale. I lived in Sylmar. Lived around there, so I know the area. So it's amazing that the fire went all the way up to Glendale, even to Hollywood Hills, I think too, right?
Yeah, there was a separate fire in Runyon Canyon, which is
Mm.
just Runyon Canyon is such an iconic part
Yeah,
of Los Angeles. Anybody that lives here knows.
yeah. That it's really sad. And I heard it was arson too, wasn't it?
There
Was
were several arsonists that were arrested. Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
it's
get it.
been pretty wild.
I don't get it. I just don't
Mhm.
get people. I just don't get it. But this whole I want to put the link here because I know it's on the video and I put it
Mhm.
here, the coreresponse.org, Southern California wildfires. You can go there and donate, and please donate. They need a lot of help. They need homes. I mean, I get goosebumps. I can't, it's like since I've been reading your stuff and going through all the videos and everything, I just got goosebumps. It just hits my soul so much because of just knowing there and having friends still there too.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
well, I've got several friends who actually did lose houses, in the Palisades, and I mean, I
uh,
just can't even imagine at this point in neighborhoods that were not affected that way. It sort of feels like we're kind of starting to get back to normal, but you go over to Altadena or the Palisades, it's an entirely different reality. Entirely
yeah, no,
different.
no. Yeah, I know. It's just so close, and they're so close because Altadena. Then you have La Cañada, La Crescenta. I remember going. I used to go shopping in those areas because I
Yeah.
lived in Tahunga for a while.
Mhm.
And so I used to go. Yeah, so I've been in little parts of California, so I know. That's why I kept telling. I was screaming here, telling my husband now. I said, "You don't understand. This is residential. This is
Yeah.
not like it's just a mountain. If it would hit the mountain, it would have been better because at least you can kind of quarantine the fire. But there's nothing
Yeah.
there. Just unfortunately for the animals, though.
Yeah, well, and it's been just catastrophic and also really concerning about the contamination from the fires because there's
Mm,
all these building materials that are burning and urban wildfires. I listened to a 3-hour webinar by the Coalition for Clean Air. A lot of people have been doing that and just learning about like the arsenic and the lead and the asbestos and the lithium
mm,
and all of the pollutants that are in this wildfire smoke. So it's a really big issue, and they're comparing it to like Lahaina and 9/11 and sort of the
mm.
health effects that were downstream of all of that. So it's a lot to kind of take in and think about.
Yeah, that is a lot to take in because we didn't think about that. All the chemicals, all the stuff that are burning inside the houses, the gas, any chemicals, all that
Yeah,
goes released to the air.
yeah,
So we don't know what kind of long-term effects we'll have. So
exactly.
we just continually pray for everybody out in LA and whoever has been affected that they get new homes, that they get, new life and they can continue. As long as you're alive and healthy, that's number one right now. So a house can be replaced, but you can't replace a person. So
Absolutely. Well, and when you're saying that you got goosebumps, like that really touches my soul to hear that. And it was interesting because I recorded these songs like a little over a year ago, and I was going to put them out a year ago. And we actually had mold in our previous apartment, which is a
mm,
whole other story. And we ended up moving last February into, the place that we're living now. And I was sort of feeling like, why haven't I put these songs out yet? Like, am I blocked somehow? What's going on? And I had finally got them all scheduled and kind of done all the organization, got everything
right,
arranged. And the actual song, my cover of Under the Bridge, comes out on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day.
right.
And when I was in Palm Springs, kind of watching everything going on back in LA in the news, I saw that Paris Hilton had partnered with CORE. Her house actually burned down, and that she was
Yeah.
matching donations. And all of a sudden, I was just like, "Oh, that's why this is the moment for this." And the video
Mm,
is like a love song to Los Angeles,
yes,
and it just speaks to this undercurrent of creativity and hopefulness. Like, I think sometimes LA gets a bad rap, like, oh, superficial, concrete.
yeah, yeah.
But there's this undercurrent of artistry and creativity and even intelligence that is pervasive here and that is palpable. I really feel it's palpable. And so when I drive around or walk around and I see these messages on the walls, which is what I wanted to I wanted to spotlight in this video. It just speaks to the heart of Angelinos. It really is the city of angels. There are incredible people in this city, and it's been so beautiful to see the way everybody has come together to help each other.
Mm,
And I just think that really speaks to the spirit of this city and the kind of people that are here, the way people have responded and come together to help each other in the
yeah.
aftermath of this tragedy.
Yeah, it's a huge community. People there, people more engaged in California. Even though you don't walk as much, but you do walk. I mean, you go to Venice Beach, you go to different beaches. There's a lot of places that there's community of people. So
Yeah,
because of that, there's a connection,
yeah,
and a lot of other places there aren't. I'm in Florida right now, and it's there's really there's not really sidewalks. There's some sidewalks, but not really. So,
yeah.
but
Well, and there's like shared experience as well, right? Like there's the entertainment industry, so there's a
right,
lot of people that share that experience.
exactly.
But just sort of that shared experience creates a culture,
Yeah.
and I think that's very unifying.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'd say everybody was wonderful when I lived in California. I only moved because my family was here. So
Mm.
I had my children, all my family was down East Coast. So it was kind of hard. But I really wish I was back in California. I miss my horse. I used to have a horse up there.
Oh,
And
wow.
I used to love that was like that was the best gift I ever got. I always dreamed as a little girl to have a horse. And my husband at the time, he got me one and surprised me. He's, oh yeah, you can ride her anytime you want. I go, really? I was like, really? I was like 25, maybe 25 years old. And then he told me one day, no, that she's yours. I go, really? Oh my gosh. It was like I had her for about 10 years or 5 years. I had her for 5 years.
What a dream.
Yeah, it was just a
Incredible.
wonderful thing, and I wish we had smartphones back then because I used to ride up to the mountains and I could see all of LA from there because
Mhm.
I was riding through Shadow Hills, Sylmar, that area. So I would go all the way up to the mountains and just sit up there and just
Hmm.
take in the city, just take in that city. So
I love
um,
that.
there's a lot of things about LA. That's why I tell people don't look at the media that they've been destroying California. Everybody's not like that. Maybe the governor sucked, but who knows, whatever that is. So you know what I mean? That's not the people. It's not the people
Right.
of California. They're very friendly. And like you said, the art and the entertainment is the biggest thing. Like that brings people together. Music brings people together.
Yeah.
And there's always every night in LA, there's something going on. There's music every day.
No, it's true. And I mean, I feel like if I were to ever move away, it would be challenging to do so. One, because of the people, and two, because of all of the experiences that are available. And I mean, even the food, right? You can get any kind of food
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Um, it's just so fun to be able to play and experience all these different cultures. And it's just such an international city as well.
It is. It's very international. I mean, of course, we have the influence of Mexico because California was Mexico at one point. So you have a lot of Mexicans, but there's a lot of Hispanic community there as well. I know some salsa artists from there.
Mhm.
Since my husband now is a salsa singer, so we're in music as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I was just telling my husband last night that I really credit keeping up on my Spanish to living in a place where it's, such a part of everything. I look around and see signs in Spanish and speak Spanish, and I love that because I'm kind of a, what do they call it, a lingophile, francophile, not a francophile, but
oh,
like
somebody who
I
loves
love,
languages.
yes, I
I
love
don't know. I
languages.
don't know what the word is either.
Yeah, it's something file, but yeah, I love languages. I took a year of German in college. I took 5 years of Spanish in high school. I've taken a couple years of French, and Spanish I probably speak better than anything else other than English.
English.
But yeah, it's so available here, and that really keeps it
Yeah.
fresh.
Well, that's it's curious because there is mostly Spanish, and then there's a lot of Armenian, there's a lot of Filipino, there's a lot of cultures there in
Mhm.
California, and here in Florida, in Miami, Spanish is like I tell Miami's a little Cuba, so
Yeah, I
you
love
know
the atmosphere in Miami. It's just such a lively, like fun,
it's
uplifting place.
spicy, as they say. We're spicy.
Yeah, yeah,
But this song Under the Bridge was amazing. Just like I said, I was like crying just because I lived there. So there's a connection. I think when you live somewhere for any period of time, you get a connection to the city, to the people.
yeah.
And I was very much into the industry and the music industry. and we knew a lot of people in producers because we lived near Cagle Canyon, which all the artists and all the producers and all these people lived in this canyon, in Cagle Canyon, which was interesting. So I remember going up there to horseback ride and run into somebody and oh yeah, I'm a producer. I work at Warner Brothers or I work here. And I'm like, really? And I worked at Disney for a period of time. So
Very cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's these enclaves and like different areas of the city as well, right? Like Disney over in Burbank and all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It is the happiest place on earth. I've been to the studio in Burbank. It's amazing. So now you have two other songs coming out now in February, right? You were saying the one on Valentine's Day.
Yes, so Under the Bridge is coming out on Valentine's Day. Soul to
Okay.
Squeeze is actually, I've got my little music release list over here. It's actually going to come
Right.
out March 14th. And then the EP itself, with the third and final song, Wet Sand, is coming out on April 11th.
Okay. Oh yeah, here is the April 11th. I didn't see that one. Oh, okay. Perfect. Perfect. So they can find you everywhere with your name, correct? And on
Correct.
YouTube and all social media.
Yes, and I like to make a little joke about my last name, Miers, is I before E. It's spelled a little different, Miers.
Right.
You usually don't see it spelled that way.
So don't get confused. It's not wrong. And everybody,
Exactly.
please remember to go to coreresponse.org for California wildfires. I have the link there on the screen. I've been putting it there. I'll leave it there. And please go donate. People need help. I mean, this is urgent. This is when all of us Americans need to come together and say we need to help these people. The same way we try to help people in North Carolina for the hurricanes. And it's been a whirlwind about tragedies, I think, in our states.
It
It's
has,
been
and I don't know that that's going to be a changing trend. I think it seems like the weather is continuing to get more wild, so I think it's something that we're going to need to continue to adapt to. But the thing I would like to just call attention to as well is it's easy for us to kind of get back to normal when we're not directly affected. It's like it's a headline in the news, it's sensational for a week or two, and then everybody else moves on with their life. But for the people that have been affected by this is going to be going on for years for them.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And so just knowing that this is still relevant, it's still important, they still need donations long after the initial buzz has kind of died out. So I
Yeah.
just hope we can keep bringing attention to it and getting people the support that they need.
Yeah, it's going to go on for years. So yeah, exactly. So we have to be you know mindful of that and remember that whatever you can give, if it's $1, $50, whatever it is, everything adds up. So like you imagine if every person in the United States gave $1, we got money. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So if everybody can just donate a little bit, just whatever they can do. I know people are going there in LA. I think there's a lot of rescue things, a lot of people going out there to help. A lot
Mhm.
of other firemen came from other states to help as well. So LA is a surviving city. Okay, I lived there during the Rodney King riots. I remember that very well, and the city came together. I remember rushing from downtown LA to get home because we didn't know what was going to happen, and then
Yeah.
things happened downtown, and I didn't have a cell phone back then either.
It's a different time.
It's a different times. I'm telling you. You think about those things. I remember that day because I couldn't get a hold of my husband, and he was on a motorcycle, and I was flipping out because they had pulled people from streets and everything from Rodney King, and I was remembering, how am I going to reach him? There was like I was just panicked until he got home hours later. Like, oh my gosh, like there was nobody call. I couldn't call like the school. Can you find him? He's there. You couldn't.
Yeah.
You
No,
know.
I mean, it really was a very different world
It
before
was it's
before the rise
totally
of the
different
smartphone.
world. Yeah, I think that now that saved a lot of people because of the cell phone, people were able to communicate with others and say, "Hey, there's a fire coming." They were able to alert, but still the fire is just rampant because of the dryness. Was it drought already in LA as well?
Yeah, so there's been a drought for the last couple years, and then I can't remember the term they used for it, but basically we had a whole lot of rain last winter, like February last year.
Right.
And so it caused a whole lot of growth, but then the drought continued thereafter, and so all that growth dried out, and it was just kindling. It was,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
tinderbox.
It happens like that a lot in LA. I remember because when I used to go riding, we had when it rained, it was like a little mini river. right? And then when it was dry, it was dry. There was nothing there. And I didn't realize that when I first went horseback riding, I went in and drove, I was riding through the wash basically, which was a river.
Hmm.
And then when it rained and I went back to ride, I go, what happened? That was a river. It was like, oh
Yeah.
no, you know?
Well, and they're concerned as well now that because of the burn scars, that there's going to be a high risk of mudslides. So it rained
Mm,
actually yesterday for the first time in a long time,
yeah.
and it was not like a days long downpour, so it
Oh,
was good.
thank
It
God.
started to wash away
That's
some of the
good.
ash, and it didn't cause mudslides, as far as I know,
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
And if we get more little rains that kind of solidify the ground, that's good versus
Right.
just like a big one and then everything washes out.
Yeah, I know that. I know they go through that a lot down and towards the beach, even Pacific Palace, Malibu, all that area, the mudslides. And so I know it's not easy to live in LA. And then you get earthquakes. So thank God there's no earthquakes. So we make sure that there's no earthquakes for a long time.
Well, you know what though? I grew up in Nebraska, and we always had this idea of California as, this dangerous, crazy place, right? Like, oh, there's earthquakes because we don't get those in Nebraska. And I remember having a conversation with my dad some years ago, and him saying, "Oh, you live in a crazy place," because I think we just had a small earthquake. And I was like, honestly, you do too. You get like tornadoes,
Yeah,
blizzards, 110-degree heat and humidity. um,
exactly.
yeah, so I think every place has its thing.
It's all you have to weigh it. So I
Yeah.
moved here, right? So I went I went through a lot of earthquakes. I went through the Northridge earthquake in '94.
Mm,
So that was big. I remember that. And then I came to Florida, and then we got hit with a pretty big hurricane. I'm like, oh my God, like blocked inside the house, listening to the winds outside, praying that everything's still there when you open up the windows again. It's crazy. So it doesn't matter where you go. You got tornadoes, rain. You got it's
pick
life.
your poison.
Exactly. But California has some of the most best weather, and you can go swimming and you can go skiing in the same month. That's what I say. So I
Very true.
remember going up to Big Bear, and yeah. So thank you so much, Ashley. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. I think we talked about the music and everything like that, and they can find you online.
Yeah, no, the only thing I want to say is thank you, Alida, for having me on. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to, raise more awareness about this and get this message out. So thank you.
Well, thank you as well for giving me the time so we can share the word out to our community here, and we know we have a big community international as well in the Colombia, Venezuela, all those countries out there too. So hopefully, the awareness gets out to all these countries as well, so they're able to donate it, to California.
I love it.
So
Yes,
I
yes, please
appreciate
do.
you so much.
Likewise. Thank you again.
Thank you. Hold on.